Welcome. Thanks for showing up here to listen and to practice. So I am going to entitle, I don't always entitle, in fact, almost never entitle my sessions, but I'm going to entitle this session When the Shit Hits the Fan. And I am talking about the crises, the small, medium, and large crises that arise in our life on a regular basis. And for some of us, more than others, depending on our life situation and also our family's culture, how we tend to handle crises. But no matter what, we are all going to come up against this on a regular basis. So, right here at the outset, I'm going to invite us to ponder our own ways of either reacting or responding. And it can be both. Maybe our ways of reacting and responding to crises in our lives. So if you think about something coming up in your life, getting the phone call, maybe a big or a small thing, and then just attempting to be an observer of yourself. What do you generally what is your general experience of yourself? I'm just going to have a time of silence here as you ponder that. So I'm going to list some of the ways that human beings tend to react and respond. And some of these are the ways I react and respond. The first one is that, which is to problem solve. And to figure out how to fix the situation. So that's my first go-to, immediately to go into my head and see how I can fix or change the situation. Other ways, we might feel guilty, we might regret, we might collapse and feel overwhelmed. We might engage in behaviors that help us to avoid the situation or the feeling of the situation. So getting busy or numbing with food or television or drink. We might become very needy. We might, this is not necessarily a negative term, but we might find ourselves reaching out to lots of people for advice and input. And then one of the things that we do is to force ourselves and our own thoughts about what should be happening on the other people in the crises or the situation. So we have a sense of what we want, and we project that. So this all comes up because about 25, 30 minutes before this call, I got a call from my niece, and our extended family is in a bit of a crisis. Um, and that's been going on for several days. And it was very clear that she was wanting to help and impact the situation. And she repeatedly said, I just want, I just want. So I think she couldn't notice herself saying that, but I could observe that. And if I were her, I might not be able to observe that either. So in thinking about crises, your own experience of them, I want you to check in now and see if you've ever had the experience of everything slowing down and becoming beautifully clear. This is instead of all those things that I listed before, and it may not be the first thing that happens, but eventually, as you kind of go through some of the immediate reactions, but sometimes it does happen immediately, like, oh, here I am. Here's what's happening. Here's what I feel. And then out of that arises a knowing. And to be very clear, it's not necessarily a knowing about what to do about the crisis. It could be, and often is, a knowing of how to be in the crisis. So, two things about when that happens. Number one, when that happens, there's always an element of grace breaking through. Grace breaking through our habitual patterns and our reactivity and pulling us out of it for a moment. And the other thing is that generally, if you've experienced that happening in your life, you also have some form of practice that has prepared you for those moments. So I'll tell a quick story here. I have had lots of experience over the last 20 years with breast cancer. And my first go around with it, I was in the hospital getting ready for surgery. And our pastor came by to pray with me and anoint me before my surgery. And he said, sort of wonderingly, wow, you seem so calm about all of this. And I kind of said, well, yeah. And then my husband jumped in and said, it's as though she's been getting ready for this all of her life. And that is why we practice. Whatever will come, and eventually for all of us, it will be death and or the deaths of those who we love the most. these sort of ultimate crises, if we have practice under our belt, we can experience it in its fullness, not as something that's necessarily negative, but as something real and true. In that moment, as I prepared for my surgery, what was most real and true was I felt loved. So, a practice like surrendered presence enables us. I will just go quickly through the stages to show you how they apply to a moment of crisis and how we can engage using the practice. The first stage is dropping into our own experience. And so this is saying, what am I feeling about what's happening here? About may not even be a great word. What am I feeling in this moment in the midst of crisis? And then in stage two is a grounding process. It is that sense of being held both physically. Oh, here I am, my feet stuck to the ground here, and also being held by love. And our bodies and our souls can feel this sense of, I don't have to control everything. I don't have to get caught up in the round and round and round of emotion and inner critic. Then the third stage is observing the body in its cycles of tension and release. And we do that with the breath. So, intake of the breath is actually the muscles contracting and working. And the release of the breath is just that, it's the muscles then relaxing. So, this constant cycle of tension, not a negative tension, the tension that is needed to draw the breath in, and then release. It's a cycle of work and rest, of drawing in and letting go, of action and then letting be. And then that takes us into the fourth stage, where we have the space to simply let go, surrender, let be. So some of us may use the term in that situation, what does God want me to do? What is God's will for this situation? And in some ways, when we ask that question, we center the knowing outside of ourselves. And another way to ask this is, in this situation, in this crisis, what does my soul know? And how does my soul want me to be? So recognizing that our soul is our interface with God. So when we look deeply into ourselves into our soul, that is where we will become most connected to God. And that is not how we do it. What we usually do is feel out into whatever is around us, beyond us, not a part of us. God out there somewhere, what do you want for this situation? So the practice of surrendered presence draws us into our being, into our soul. And then this question becomes inseparable between what does God want or what does love want and what does my soul want. So I invite us to practice together. So I invite you to or to settle yourself in your chair in a way that is both comfortable and alert, and then to drop into your experience. Begin with noticing that when I use that phrase, drop into your experience, where does your awareness go? What is your attention drawn to? I notice that I drop right into kind of the solar plexus area, right into what I would consider the middle of myself. And the reason this is helpful is that when you are in the midst of something challenging and you hear that phrase, drop in, you can feel yourself drop into that space that automatically begins this practice. And then begin to explore your physical being, allowing your awareness to be drawn to any part of the body that is having an experience, that is feeling a sensation. And then staying with the sensation of the body, the physical being, then it's as though we can extend our awareness to include inner self. So not so much as like, shifting our attention, but just beginning to include, these other experiences of feeling, emotion, heart, spirit, mind. And to simply notice what's there. Not forcing any experience, not having any sort of expectation of any type of experience, but just being with whatever wants to arise. And so now having a sense of both your physical being and your inner self, and extending the awareness again into the room, the space that you're currently inhabiting, your immediate environment. What are the sounds? What is the temperature of the room? Feeling air on your face, your skin. Opening your eyes and including the sights. And then in body, mind, spirit, experiencing yourself here. I'm here in the room, in this space, this environment. And then continuing to expand your awareness to include what's outside your four walls immediately, what we call the outside. And that this is also here. And then expanding some more to include your neighborhood, your city. And we do all this as we continue to sense ourselves as physical body and as heart and mind. And that all of this is here. So see if you can sense yourself beginning to land here, to be here. And here includes this moment. And here includes love. But all those places I mentioned, and all those places are awareness explored and experienced. They all include love. So now I invite you to bring your awareness to your feet. Or maybe bringing your awareness to your awareness and letting that awareness float down and settle in the space between your feet and the floor. And letting the awareness rest there. Letting the awareness rest and notice what it experiences. And then to recognize that you're being acted upon, that you can even sense that in that space, that there's a force acting upon you, drawing you into the earth, holding you in this place. And that force is gravity. Feel the way gravity holds you in the chair, stabilizes you on the ground. And that because you are held, you can relax. And so, as I say that word, allow relaxation. Allow yourself to be held by both gravity and the other force of the universe, love. Now, I invite us to bring our attention to the breath. Watching the breath arise from the low belly, travel up through the belly, the chest, the lungs, landing at the top of the chest, and then falling back down again. Watching how the chest expands and the shoulders rise. On the in-breath, and then on the out-breath, as it all lets go, drops back down again. And our sole practice here is to feel what it's like to let go, to let be. And when you feel ready, just allowing that out breath to draw you into complete surrender, where you also let go of any observation needing to observe, any focusing of the awareness, even any instruction that I'm giving. You release it all, let go of it all into love. And always remembering that if and when your mind wanders, you return to the breath or you feel yourself held. And then eventually just riding that out breath back into the complete surrender, sense of letting it all be. And I invite you to just stay in that space for as long as you have time.